Yes, and frankly, I agree with that we celebrate Professor and we sincerely submit ourselves to the Lord and say this man actually completed his work. He was full of energy. He did all of his work. There was nothing that you did with Magoha that was undone. He did all of his work. He lived his full life, was never bored any minute. He never knew a moment for stories. And I have to say this, because again, this is another aspect of our society. In a country where these days we hardly go through a day without being reminded about the regions, who comes from what region and what region is important, what region should own government, and so on and so forth. Not once. And we hired across the board, we had many discussions. Your Excellency, not once did Magoha entertain a discussion about people's backgrounds, about people's ethnicity, about people's regions. Magoha was driven by only one consideration: delivery and excellence in getting the work done. His disdain for politics was not concealed, and his impatience for mediocrity was real. He had no time for pettiness and small talk, and small things around town. He was always driven for results. He said, what does number one want? That's what we do. And this is the way we go. For all of us who worked with Professor Magoha in cabinet, and for me and my colleagues in the education sector in the last 5 or 6 years, we'll be everlastingly grateful to God for the life of this, our wonderful brother. And if there is anything we can do in this world as a tribute to Professor Magoha, in our small way, wherever life takes us, wherever life finds us, we just try to emulate that thing. Honest, sincere delivery of service to the people, period. Nothing else matters. And because of that, a lot of work was done in our country. Your Excellency, there are many things to say. There's problems that you demanded solved and how you wanted. For example, a reorganization of the CQI program by the World Bank. We would never actually have discovered the challenges with that program if Magoha had not served as the Minister of Education. The program was going to be held hostage by certain officials of the ministry, and the government and the people of Kenya were going to lose if Magoha had not been minister in that. And when you insisted that you wanted to see for yourself the data and the facts and everything and how they were done, Magoha delivered. There wasn't a day that you gave assignments and you said things be done in a particular way that Magoha was saying or even grumbling. The other thing I never heard from Magoha for all the time that I worked with him, I never heard Magoha once whine and moan and grumble and complain about systems and people and what have you. He moved in one direction. When Professor Magoha stepped in the room, you knew a leader had arrived. When there was an argument, you predicted Professor Magoha's side even before the argument began. The side would be where the facts are, where the truth is. That is Magoha's side, no matter what. So, honestly, this erudite scholar, very solid academic of unparalleled credentials. There are many people in this world who claim academic credentials. Magoha didn't have to lecture anybody about them. He lived them and you saw them. Since he passed away, I've been called by so many people, colleagues we worked with in the education sector from across the region, because people know how useful Magoha was, for example, to the Inter-University Council of East Africa, to the university standards and the university commissioning credentials across this particular region. Some of our countries in the region could not actually approve their medical schools without Professor Magoha looking at their curriculum. That's how solid and important he was amongst us. I hope that in celebrating him, we emulate those good things he did. Finally, I am not in authority these days, so I can only share hopes. I hope that somebody somewhere in this environment, in the context of all these things that happen and the cacophony, and the noises that we hear every day, many of them unhelpful to anybody, will think about how we can immortalize Professor Magoha's contribution to our society. Either one university will create a chair and name it after Professor Magoha, or a scholarship program and name it after Professor Magoha, or name a research program after Professor Magoha. And actually, if people were to be very honest and sincere, like the universities, and do something like that, a lot of us ordinary citizens of this country who admired his life and had an opportunity to work with him will make our small sacrifices and contribute to that, because that is the greatness of our society. Magoha exhibited the best of Kenya, not the worst of Kenya, the best of our country. And I believe when I see some of the things I see somewhere, someplace these days, I believe Kenya is better than this. And I think about great people like Professor Magoha. And let all of us go forth and do whatever we can. There's only one request I have, and I was asked to make on behalf of my cabinet colleagues. Mama, I'm told there are 1 or 2 kids that Professor Magoha was supporting for school fees. Michael, my cabinet colleagues, those of us who served with Magoha in cabinet, under the leadership of our president, we will make a contribution, because the president told me to talk to my colleagues in cabinet to see whether there's anything he can help us to do to support 1 or 2 of those kids that Magoha was supporting. Let none of them be stranded on account of our brother's departure. Our president is keen on this. He has invested a lot on this. He will help us and guide us to try and help some of those kids so that they are not stuck. And we will work together the way we have worked together, quietly with my brothers and sisters, ex-PSS, so that we also honor our colleague, because I think it's a morally right thing to do. It's the honest thing to do, and even in the face of God, it's the just and sensible thing to do at this time. We wish you all the best. All my colleagues who are not here, some of whom have traveled, have sent their messages of condolences. They're here. Michael, you know we are in very deep conversation with you on things that we need to do, some we don't need to say here. And I want to assure you, we will work with you. We'll do the best we can. No one, let's not pretend, no one will fit in Magoha's shoes. Let's not pretend. No one will fit in Magoha's shoes. We can only do the best we can, the way God will help us, or whatever God will help us to do, just to alleviate momentary pain and help you move to the next day as we all continue walking the journey of this life. May the Lord shine his face upon you. May the Lord hold you with his mighty right hand. May the Lord bless you indeed. And Michael, there's nothing more challenging than to walk in the footsteps of a towering father. May the Lord bless you, so that as you sustain that name and that generation, God will raise you up to keep to that particular legacy. Thank you.